Courtrooms around the country will be dark on Monday in observance of the federal holiday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But when court resumes Tuesday, several very important hearings are on the docket. So many, in fact, that we're calling it a true super crime Tuesday. And Court TV, of course, will be all over it. First, Boy in a Box mom, Tracy Ferreter, will be in court. The hope is that she will present her new attorney to the judge. Also, accused murderer Sarah Boone could finally learn when her trial will begin. Adam Montgomery will be in court. He's accused in the death of his missing 5-year-old daughter, Harmony. And former politician Robert Tellis is set to appear in a Las Vegas courtroom for a motions hearing. Also, protesters in the Karen Reed murder case will be in court for a hearing over their civil lawsuit against the Canton police. And last, but certainly not least, we will be in the Low Country for Alex Murdaugh's bid for a retrial. Now, we want to take a closer look at 3 of those cases in our calendar call, beginning with the suitcase murder trial in Florida. Defendant Sarah Boone will be in court for a pretrial hearing on Tuesday, where the judge could set a date for her trial. Now, Boone is accused of killing her boyfriend by zipping him in a suitcase. She claims Jorge Torres's death was part of a hide-and-seek game that went terribly wrong. She became very emotional while explaining to police what happened. Here's part of that exchange captured on police body cam.
We have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking, we had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase, okay?
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
How did he live here with you guys?
No, I called him over here.
Okay, okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys. I tried giving him CPR. The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found him.
Before you called?
Yes!
1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys.
Did he get here before the fire department got here?
Who?
Your husband or your ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay. Where does he live at?
Right down the street.
Okay. So you were playing and who zipped him up?
I did, but then I fell asleep.
Okay. You're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened.
I fell asleep, so I don't know if he suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or what.
What kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You didn't
that I
take
know
any
of.
medicine?
No. All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Doing puzzle artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened.
Boone's hearing is set to begin Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And of course, we'll have that for you as well. Turning now to the disappearance and death of Harmony Montgomery. Adam Montgomery, the father of the 5-year-old girl, is due back in court next week for a pretrial hearing. His attorneys are expected to discuss several motions, including one to exclude this body cam video of the police asking Montgomery about Harmony's disappearance.
Under arrest? No, you're not. You don't have any warrants here. All right, I got nothing to say. Adam, right? Montgomery. Yeah. Do you remember me from the Elliott Hospital from a while back, man? Yeah, I got nothing to say. Right. So, hey, man, the only thing we're trying to figure out is where Harmony is. Okay. So, the concern is that you guys are sick, right? Okay. You're not in trouble. Nobody said you're losing your daughter. Okay. So I want to make that clear. Okay. So all you know, I have my body tomorrow, just like everybody else is being on the report. So you just need to find out where she is. That's all I'm concerned about. I mean, you're not in any trouble right now that I know of. Okay. We have no warrants. Okay. So, where's your daughter so we can check on her to make sure that she's okay? Right now, I have nothing to say to you guys. But that's not what I'm just asking where she is. I have nothing to say. So you don't care if your daughter's okay or not? I do. I listen, I have nothing to say. Is your daughter... If I'm under arrest, you guys can arrest me.
They've also filed a new motion to prevent any conversations between Montgomery and his estranged wife, Kayla, from being entered as evidence. They say that those conversations are privileged. Now, you may remember, Kayla testified in Montgomery's weapons trial last June. In a probable cause affidavit, prosecutors say that she told investigators Montgomery killed Harmony and kept her body in a duffel bag for several months. Montgomery's murder trial begins on February 7th. And we head now also to South Carolina, where convicted double murderer Alex Murdaugh hopes to get a new trial. He will be in court Tuesday for a preliminary hearing on the motion. His attorneys have accused the clerk of court, Becky Hill, of jury tampering. In their motion, they claim Hill told jurors not to be, quote, misled by evidence and not to be fooled by Murdaugh's testimony in his own defense. Here's part of their news conference from last October.
So immediately in the aftermath of the verdict, we had received information that we needed to look into what happened in the jury room. When the clerk of court wrote her book, published her book, that zone of silence collapsed. And jurors were upset about that, the ones we talked with, and they were more than willing to come forward and tell us the things that we had sort of heard through a whisper campaign. The first juror we talked to, we got information about Ms. Hill saying, "Don't be fooled." And then the second juror, independent of the first juror, says the same thing, and the third juror, independent of the other two, say the same thing.
Now, Hill has denied saying anything to the jurors, and Hill's self-published book about the Murdaugh trial is called Behind the Doors of Justice, but it is no longer available for sale after Hill admitted to plagiarizing parts of the book. Earlier this week, the defense submitted a revised brief at the request of the new judge in the case. In it, the defense renews its motion for a new trial, but so far, no word on if the state has submitted its response. Murdaugh is serving life in prison for the murders of his wife, Maggie, and their younger son, Paul. Let me bring back in our guest, still with us, criminal defense attorney Franz Borghardt. Franz, quickly, I want to go to the Adam Montgomery case because I think there's an interesting issue there. You saw the interaction there with police. What the defense is claiming is that he had every right not to answer their questions, and as such, putting it in front of the jury could be prejudicial to him, far greater than it is probative. They're saying, well, no. This wasn't an interrogation. They were checking in on the whereabouts of Harmony, and therefore it should be admissible for them to talk about his demeanor and his evasiveness, which may go towards his guilt in the death of Harmony Montgomery. Your thoughts on whether that might make it into court or not?
So I think it's going to come into court, Michael, but I do think that there is a problem with the commentary by the police officer. That may not make it into court. So when the police officer starts at the back end, starts making some commentary, that may not come in. But here's the thing. United States Supreme Court has said you absolutely can invoke your right to remain silent, which is what he's clearly doing, right? But to invoke your right to remain silent, you have to say something to the degree of, I invoke my constitutional right to remain silent, right? That is the magical language that the United States Supreme Court has said keeps stuff out. If you don't say that and you're nonchalantly smoking a cigarette and kind of his demeanor is what it is, I think that comes in. Particularly because it's not things spoken, it's demeanor.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what might end up happening here. They can bring in the officers to testify about his demeanor. I think they'll get away with that as well. Quickly, he also is claiming spousal privilege. He's citing the law, saying that it doesn't allow her to come in and talk about statements they made during that marriage. Do you think that he's going to be successful there?
He might be successful there unless there's some kind of state law, Michael, that says there's an exception for admissions to crime. Generally, the spousal privilege is sacrosanct, right? You can tell your spouse something and it doesn't come in. So I'm looking for an exception under state law, and if in the absence of that, that may actually...
Well, it looks like we got a bit of technical difficulty there with Franz. We'll do our best to get him back. It looks like he's back. All right, Franz. I want to move on now to the Murdaugh case. Essentially, there's going to be testimony from various jurors in the case. Apparently, there were two groups. One were in jurors' room. Another group were in what's considered a judge's room. At least that's what they're calling it. They're going to call some of them to testify. My question for you is, will Becky Hill need to testify. She's already signed an affidavit, but she's also facing investigations, criminal investigations, which may lead her to not want to say another word.
If I'm representing Becky, she's not testifying. She's invoking her constitutional right to remain silent that we just talked about. Michael, I'm predicting that in 2024, we're going to be covering the prosecution of Becky Hill. So she needs to not testify. And frankly, putting her on the stand, I mean, look, she's going to, what, she going to deny that she said what she said? There's 3 jurors that seem to indicate that she said it. So whether or not she testifies or not, I think the defense gets a new trial ultimately at the end of this hearing.
All right, quickly, and I wanted to ask you that question, but at the end of the day, is it about the fact that she made the comments, or what if they say that it didn't really affect them in any way, that they would have voted guilty regardless?
I think the appearance of impropriety as an officer of the court makes it to where it's a new trial.